So thank you for your patience. Lucia, let me know when you'd like me to go ahead.
Yeah, I think we can start, Raquel, and then everyone that wants to join later, they can always do that.
Okay, fantastic. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our third installment of our webinar series. Today's topic is vision, technology, and leadership, the keys to success for the revenue manager in South Africa. Today, our host is Lucía Cianchetta. She's the sales director of BEONx based in Spain, and we are very, very happy and welcome, extremely privileged to have our guest speaker, Liam Jacobs, to join us today as one of our panelists. Liam Jacobs is the Director of Commercial at the Mantis Collection. As the commercial director, Liam drives Mantis's global brand strategy, brand awareness, distribution, and revenue growth. He firmly believes that strong commercial performance is the foundation for fulfilling the brand's mission, seamlessly bridging commerce and conservation to deliver lasting impact for communities and the environment. Before joining Mantis, Liam directed pre-openings and operations for several Accor brands across Southern Africa, including the Cape Grace, which was part of Fairmont, Mantis, and Movenpick. Working across diverse markets and cultures, he developed a strong ability to lead multidisciplinary teams, adapt to complex environments, and deliver purpose-driven results rooted in local contexts. Liam also holds a Bachelor of Commerce in Investment Management, Corporate Finance, and Business Management from the Wits University. He's passionate about growth, embraces lifelong learning to stay ahead in a rapidly evolving world. Outside of work, Liam prioritizes quality time with his family and is an avid sportsman with a love for adventures. So thank you for joining us today. Lucia, over to you.
Yeah. Hi, Raquel. Hi, everyone. Hi, Liam. I'm very happy to co-hosting this third webinar together with Adaptity. As Raquel mentioned, I'm sales director in BEONx. For those who don't know us, we have an AI-powered revenue management system for health. So we help turning market competitors and demand data into precise and real-time pricing decisions. Of course, we do apply AI, and we help hoteliers to anticipate shifts and adjust dynamically to drive a stronger RevPAR and profitability. So say that. We'll also thank you, Liam, for being with us. And in the next hour, we are going to talk about what we define as the keys to success for a revenue manager, which in our vision are actually vision, technology, and leadership. We wanted to try different webinar format compared to the other edition that we did together. So rather than just going through slides and theory, we want to share real experiences of how South African revenue managers are playing a strategic role right now. They have to combine not only technology and human judgment, but also leadership across different realities on the ground. So we decided to divide this session in 3 different blocks. Technology as an ally to humans, challenges and opportunities in South African market, and OTAs and distribution. So before we dive into the first block, I would like to open up with a question for Liam. So Liam, question for you. In your opinion, why does revenue management matter in South African hospitality sector? And how has the role of the revenue manager evolved in the market over the recent years?
Why is revenue important? I think used to be something that was very much over hotels, seen as a side job that was done by the GM. And I hope I don't get in trouble if I say that. Sometimes worse, even a finance manager or a sales manager. They were the ones often, in their very intense boardroom reviews and performance reviews with the stakeholders, and they would get a lot of heat around, how the hotel's performing and why are we or not achieving budgets that were set, years ago based on someone's understanding of macroeconomic figures and a very, very high level of, segmentation understanding. And we were kind of just, committed as revenue lead in hotel. But I think today we're at a much more advanced position where, skills and revenue managers actually are given authority in hotel decision making. And I think that for me is great to see. We're in the state's transition, and we're moving away from those kind of rigid annual targets and of basing kind of commercial decisions on financial and sales activity only. And yeah, I think that's why, not to to get stuck into more of your questions to come, but just in a summary, I think that's why it's important, today. And I'm really excited to be speaking to this micro audience of future revenue leaders.
Thank you, Liam. I've already introduced our first topic for today, which was technology as an ally to the human factor. South Africa's hospitality sector has seen a rapid RMS adoption in recent years, yet many properties still rely heavily on intuition and local knowledge. In your experience, Liam, has technology come to replace the revenue manager's judgment, or has it just given us a sharper lens to apply it?
Technology does replace some, I don't want to say judgment, but I'd rather call or refer to them as like daily sort of my decision making, planning, data analysis, and so on and so forth. And if I look at my team spending 80% of their time doing manual spreadsheets to build up that data, when they could be using brain power around strategy, I think that's for me the answer to your question. It really is around giving us sharper lens, freeing up to make decisions. Technology is an enabler and always will be. If you think about like an alarm clock and setting a time to wake up in the morning, you set it for 6 o'clock, you make the call. Do you wake up? How do you start your day? You have an early flight. Did you go to bed late? Are you got 100% energy to go to gym? Look after your family. Those are things that just enable you to be a bit more efficient. And I think it's the exact same lens that I look at when I think RMS, and just to be honest with you, technology in general, because it's evolving rapidly in the industry.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a great analogy and a great way of looking at it, Liam. So if you have to picture two hotels in the same destination, they have the same star rating, the same RMS, pulling from the same market data, you may find that one consistently outperforms the other. What is actually making the difference? Is it technology, the person behind it, or is something else entirely different?
The short answer is it's not about the systems. You can have the best RMS system in the world, the best technology, and we see it all the time where hotels are still underperforming and they can't really unlock value. So for me, it's not about RMS, although it plays an important role. And speaking more directly to the revenue leaders, I think on today's call, and I don't want to stereotype or paint anyone in a negative picture, so I'm going to speak from my personal experience. I'm very analytical, and I think sometimes we can have the most brilliant answer. The data says this, and this is the recommendations from the system. But very often, we lose hotels, we lose GMs in our strategy thinking, we lose commercial leaders because they don't quite buy into that story. If a GM is then overriding the system because they're fearful of the rates that have been set, or their front office team are not really sure, like, how do we upsell this, or what's the kind of strategy, then I think that's when strategy fails. On the contrary, if revenue managers and leaders are stepping out from behind the spreadsheets and the computers and the analytical data, and you step into storytelling mode, you start to build trust with the GM, with the sales teams, marketing teams. And I think that's where the magic ultimately lies, and not always in, proving that technology is right. It's in using that data to build trust and I think drive teamwork. So for me, I'm really big on teamwork. I know it's really cheesy, but often that is almost always the difference between two hotels.
Absolutely. I don't think that's cheesy at all. Teamwork is basically, what brings everything together. And Liam, I have another question for you. In our market in South Africa, where we have things like load shedding, which can shift demand overnight. We can have, a political event that can spike cancellations or rand depreciation. These kinds of things, a rand depreciation can suddenly make us more attractive to international guests. Can an algorithm truly manage all of that without human override, And where does the data exactly stop and the revenue manager's responsibility begins when it comes to this kind of thing?
I actually really like this question. So I'm quite excited to answer it because I call it operational empathy. That's something that an algorithm doesn't have. An algorithm alone can't predict everything. You mentioned load shedding, but touch wood, we hopefully don't have too much load shedding these days in South Africa. And maybe I want to talk a little bit more about a real-time challenge we're having at the moment, and things I don't want to comment on, but they are escalating around the conflict of Middle East. Algorithms can't predict that, and they can't predict what that will do to a business. If we as RMs, our leaders, we look at this and we take the stage and we say, what are we doing? Okay, how much diesel are we burning to run? If we drop our rates, what is it going to do to our margins? Because we driving higher occupancies, and we're using more fuel, food costs, things like that. So if I drop my rates today, I destroy margins, kind of thing. Like, that's the kind of thinking where AI can never replace, or at least not yet. And we as RMs have the privilege of actually, when the data stops and analyzes, we are the ones who sit there and think, okay, now we take responsibility for what happens next and why, and so what. And these are the kind of thinking and questions that we have real-time operational empathy, as I said in the beginning, over what happens to real-time commercial strategy.
Thank you. Operational empathy, that's a first for me. I've written that one down, Liam. Thank you. I have one more question for you about this. In South Africa, we have a real talent scarcity when it comes to revenue management. But at the same time, so many properties are investing in sophisticated RMS tools. In your view, what drives more profitability, the tech investment or the investment in the people operating it?
I'm sure everyone on the call can probably guess what I'm going to say. Hence the reason we're here today. But I mean, think about it. I mean, I like F1. Do you think Ferrari have this beautiful car and the world's most terrible driver? And don't answer that question, because I don't want to get anyone angry or heated over who's the best driver. But I think that's the point. You need the two to work together. And if you'd asked me these questions 5 years ago, I think I would have said, obviously, 100% people always. But I think, today, I will slightly adjust my answer, and I'll say people always win, but specifically the people that are using technology.
Yes,
and I
absolutely.
think, given highly sophisticated RMS, what have you, to a largely untrained team is almost, like buying that Ferrari with someone that doesn't want a driver's license, or whether they have one, it's irrelevant. And it really is a bit of a waste of capital. So I think, okay, we might have a talent scarcity, but, that's why we're trying to do what we do here and change that narrative, get our GMs and our leaders to buy into why this is important for hotel success going forward. And yeah, basic tools, I think, when used consistently, will almost always outperform the most expensive system on the market with someone that's untrained. So we need to invest in ourselves and invest in the driver of the vehicle.
Thank you, Liam. That is an excellent answer, and we really appreciate your insights from all your years of experience and your skills. I'm going to hand you over to Lucía for the next topic. Lucía, over to you.
Yeah, nice. Well, Liam, thanks for the example of Ferrari, I'm Italian, so it really resonates with me. I think you made some great foundation to build on. I'm going to move to the second block, that is challenges and opportunities in the market. So this is really about grounding our conversation in reality. So how strategic revenue management get practiced daily. Inside a very specific set of complexities, we are talking about load shedding, currency volatility, strong seasonality, a mix of demand, a leisure tourism sector that keeps growing. So these aren't abstract challenges, but they really shape every pricing and forecast decision that a revenue manager makes here today. So let's go into the first question. The first one is, how does decision making change when you have to interpret technology and data?
Sorry, Lucía, will you just repeat the last part of that question? I lost you there.
Sure. Yeah. How does decision making change when you have to interpret technology and data?
Sure. Rule number one: don't panic. That's maybe bad.
That's a nice advice.
Maybe don't. That's not good advice. That's like telling someone that's stressed not to be anxious. I mean, But I think everyone's in a volatile market. I don't really think there are more volatile markets than others. I mean, maybe in some ways. And all of decision making has to move from reactive panicking, maybe what's a good word, like strategic filtering. When the rand drops, okay, cool. You can see red, or you can choose to see opportunities. And I think you have to find ways to overlay data with market psychology. Tourism, rand weakening, that means more buying power for customers potentially who aren't as price sensitive. So we can't put price sensitivity always with market volatility. And if there's no demand, dropping your rates won't bring more guests. We saw this during COVID. We're seeing it through some of the other world pandemics or local pandemics, what have you. So I think that takes discipline, and again, it comes to building trust in your team with GMs and sales managers, marketing teams, because you'll be okay during these trends. And likewise, there's opportunities where you need to identify ways in which to preserve your margins. There'll be times in the future when you really can take advantage. So, don't be lazy when things start to come back again, because you do need to cover ground and make up some of the losses.
Yeah, I really like that advice. It's like something that we should all have in our desktop. First thing to see, it's like every morning, like be positive and see every situation as an opportunity to make better. So from your experience, what's the most common mistake that hoteliers make when they adopt revenue technology for the first time?
So why are you asking me all the hard questions? I think there's a misconception that you plug and play, and that's the trap. And hopefully that's something that's like BEONx and Adapt IT, and that's why we're working with local partners and international partners to really educate and train the people, not always the people using the systems like RMS, but kind of people around them. And ask the question is, how do we build a bigger commercial strategy? It's not just around pricing or room architecture or forecasting demand. It's more of a holistic view and coming back to team alignment, things like that, all the right answers. So I think that is a misconception, and also that things will just kind of be fixed overnight. You can't just implement a new technology on old internal processes. So it really does come down to kind of full buy-in into the decision. And I'm sure the RM teams that are on the call today, they can probably actually give you more examples of this, and you experience it on the daily almost. Technology can be enablement, but it can also trap you from being a successful commercial business.
Yeah, and seeing your experience and the kind of responsibility you have on your shoulder, how do you balance the pressure for immediate results that, we all have, in companies, with the need for sustainable digital transformation, especially when economic pressures are directly affecting operations?
It's also a bit like walking on a tightrope between general managers, owners, various stakeholders across the business. They're also under immense cash pressures often, cash flow wise, and without speaking only on the negative, there are a lot of operational costs and rising costs, across running day-to-day business. So I think when you go to people who are in that panic, then you're asking them to invest. I think they don't see it as like a long-term digital transformation. They really see it as a bit of a luxury. And I think for me, this is where kind of our role is around focusing on more incremental high impact wins as senior leadership and as RMs. We're not trying to change the whole stack, your whole tech stack overnight. There are ways and means, and hopefully maybe we can touch on that a little bit later, Lucía, to show immediate ROI with really small technology shifts. And again, to come back to what I said earlier, it's not always about the technology, and it's about how we're training our people, and those are the key decision makers where make the biggest impact in terms of our day-to-day survival. Of course, when implemented correctly, the the tools are there to grow it. But I think that is the core for me, is if I've answered the question, hopefully.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with you that you can have the best technology there, but if your team and people working are not able to use that, or they know how to get the best out from, I think it's a missed opportunity as well. I'm gonna go with an easy question, last one from my side. Looking ahead, what skills do you think will be indispensable for the revenue manager of the future?
I think communication, but specifically around the why. Maybe to link a bit to what I said earlier. If you can explain the why behind the data to your general manager, to your sales team, managing guests on the floor, and these kind of analytical genius, then almost become redundant conversations. The future GM is a master communicator, I think, and a strategic business partner. You're hopefully the teams who's also going to be included in business reviews. Where, as I mentioned earlier, years ago, it was often sales or finance in those really strategic reviews, and is actually seeing yourselves as leaders in hotels, not just like back-end data analysts and decision makers that get put forward on the table. So I think for me, storytelling, stepping out of your comfort zone, explaining why decisions have an impact and what's the positive around it, but also identifying obviously the downside risk if we don't achieve it, and having the team around you to catch you when that happens, or to stand together as a team, because sometimes mistakes are allowed to in controlled environments should be made, and that's how you learn and grow as a business. So I think that's going to be an indispensable skill for revenue managers in the future.
Yeah, totally. Thanks a lot, Liam. We really appreciate your feedback. I think it resonates with everyone in this call. Gonna hand over to Raquel for the last block of questions.
Thanks, Lucia. Back to you, Liam. So the last topic today is about OTAs and distribution in South Africa, and I think this is a great topic to end off with, purely because everyone's focus as well is looking at distribution and getting their properties out there into the OTAs. In this topic, we're just going to analyze how we're going to practice strategic revenue management, where prices are heavily conditioned by our OTAs and especially international distribution platforms. How can you recover some control over pricing without losing visibility or demand in the distribution channels, especially relevant for boutique lodges or independent guest houses or smaller properties?
Yeah, I think the mistake you can really quickly fall into is as properties trying to fight OTAs just on pricing parity alone. I think ultimately it is kind of a losing battle. And again, depending on how your segmentation look and what are the drivers of your business, you have to fight them over value. That's a really key point. How do you, sure, OTAs are great. They generate that kind of global billboard effect, for visibility and, hopefully attracting and reaching new clients. But you also need to protect the direct channel by ensuring that the booking experience on your own websites and your own direct engagements with your team are hugely valuable and experiential for your clients. Take them on a journey. Something that is more physically sitting on an OTA, that can't upsell by itself, and is masked behind marketing descriptions of room types and value adds that most of the time people are actually not looking at. There was a lot of studies being done at the moment on the type of digital, they call them digital profiles, but essentially it's like what is the segmentation of an online traveler, because it is very different, and we're getting a lot more research around what drives people to make decisions and how they choose to stay at property. So I think that is important. It's all about experience. And I think You can also recover a small bit of control of your pricing by realizing that a guest booking a luxury property isn't booking just a bed, right? They are really buying that experience, and control of experience is in some ways control over the distribution.
That's a fantastic way of looking at it. I think there's nothing like the direct guest experience, compared to how the OTAs position you. And then I have one last question. What opportunities does technology, especially AI direct channel strategy, offer today to partially rebalance the relationship with the OTAs, especially in the South African hospitality market?
Wow, this is the OTA space, and I mean I know your question is on OTAs, but I want to take a step back, and
Hmm.
the world of online travel is vastly changing and becoming complex at the same time as it's becoming a lot more efficient and growing our reach as hotels, which is amazing. And OTAs are big and they're generic engines. Um, if I answer the question specifically around like more luxury or safari lodges or more
Hmm.
unique properties that are not always in like key destinations, um, it doesn't matter. The guest treats the same lodge in the exact same way as they treat a hotel that's kind of based in London, and that's kind of their weakness as OTAs, right?
Yes.
And I think that's where AI and modern, kind of tech give us a bit of the upper hand. And if you can in a simple way find out how to use that, whether that's an automated CRM, web tools to hyper personalize, direct communication, if it's an international guest who visits the website or a local guest, we can often use sort of dynamic messaging to show them, tailored content from various regions, currencies, travel intent, what have you. And I think that is where that value unlock is, and to kind of rebalance
Yeah.
that relationship with some of the OTAs. Um, and in a lot of ways, AI has become threatening. You're asking the question earlier: AI, does it replace human capital? In some ways, people are saying, does AI replace that kind of scale of human touch? If you consider like an experience-based booking experience, as I mentioned earlier, and I think in a lot of ways, you need to think future. How do we prepare for that future? It's not replacing. There will always be that need for, that person that greets you as you walk through the doors, that helps you with your bags. The same way you will always need someone to help you in extreme cases of your reservation and making changes. And I think that is, ways and things that we need to think a bit more strategically as South Africans and South African businesses, because, and I'll tell you, the world out there is fastly evolving. And my hope is that in a few years, when you ask me the question, what does AI and revenue mean for South Africa commercial? I hope we've dealt with some of those questions. I hope we've been quick adopters of AI, and not kind of been late to the party, because the time is now.
Yes, that's absolutely right. The time is now. Yeah, thank you so much for answering those. It was really, really great connecting with you today. Lucia, over to you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think we covered a lot of ground today from short timing. So we spoke about technology, about specific challenges and opportunities shaping the market. And before we close, I would like to bring it like all together, like to wrap up. I want to make a last question for Liam. If you want to sum up in one sentence the key to success for the revenue manager today, what would you say?
I think the key is knowing that success is not measured by how right your data is or how right your analysis is. And remember that technology is one of your ultimate co-pilots. You are still the captain of the ship or the driver of the vehicle. Never be afraid to put up your hand, step out from behind the spreadsheets, and lead commercial decision making and strategy. And I think that's the key to success and going forward. And if you had to ask me a follow-up question, I'm gonna guess that you are. If you ask me in 5 years, what does an RM look like, or how does the role of a revenue manager change? I think I would use the terminology, this transition from like a room or someone that's purely sometimes seen as only managing dynamic revenue. It's a complete shift to total asset, I think, optimization. I can't think of a better word. And it's a complete shift from analysts to commercial influencer. And if you can get that right, I see that's how the RM role is going to change going forward in the next few years. We need to lean into data-driven decision making where it's appropriate, but ultimately you are the captain of the ship, and I think the key to success is unlocking how you communicate that. So yeah, thank you, Lucia.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great suggestion, and we need to keep up behind on our mind, remembering what you said. So with that, let's open up for Q&A. I see that we have received some questions on a private mode. People are shy, but how do smaller independent properties without big budget access the same level of technology and judgment as the bigger ones?
Well, for starters, you don't need a corporate budget to have a corporate mindset. And as I mentioned earlier, you can start with very agile tech solutions. You can look to outsource heavy judgment or data analyzing and processing. And kind of there's this misconception, maybe I mentioned it earlier, that RMs and revenue managers and systems are only there to support dynamic only hotels, which is a misconception. And I think why I'm mentioning that is because often smaller hotels don't have as big a budgets, I think, just naturally, and there's an advantage in that you can be more agile. So yeah, you don't need to be corporate to have a corporate budget to have a corporate mindset. We've leapfrogged the technology phase, and you probably are in a better position to talk about this more than me. But yeah, tech I think is half the battle, and if you don't have time for full-time, don't have budget, for full-time RM, there are highly specialized revenue management solutions and tech solutions that are available for smaller businesses.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I can just speak about mine, but in our case, I mean, it's totally about what the company needs, what is the base they start from, and then how they can actually improve and grow together. And that different level of flexibility of an RMS. So it's just a matter of understanding the base. Where do we start? What are their needs? And then start creating foundation to grow up together. I see there is another question. We spoke about talent scarcity before. What would you recommend to another group trying to build a revenue management team from scratch?
I like this question. I don't, define talent scarcity, and I hope I'm not judging whoever asked the question and critiquing your question, but I think, define talent scarcity. And if you look really closely, you'll probably find that there's a lot of hungry people out there. And my angle to hiring would be hire for attitude, hire people who are commercially curious, not necessarily people that always have, the math degrees and who are good with analytical side of thing. Teach them systems. You can't teach people hunger. If you're looking for a kind of perfect revenue manager on paper, and I'm sure all of you on the call are today, so I hope this question doesn't upset anyone or discourage you, but it often can be quite rare to come across that on a paper. So look inside existing operations, and I hope today we only don't have revenue managers on the call, because very often there's a smart reservationist, a very hungry receptionist, an analytical coordinator, maybe in the sales team or something. They're always the ones kind of asking the questions, why are we running this campaign? Why do we set this rate? How do we set our rates? You can train curiosity. You can train business-minded people to use leverage systems of BEONx and MyCross and all of these systems that are available to us in a few weeks. But you can't train someone that's very antisocial, data scientist, to understand hospitality. You can't expect that person to build trust with the general manager and a sales team. So if you are one of those people, that's fantastic. And if you're a data specialist, fantastic. But remember, as I mentioned, I think the key is communication and commercial curiosity.
Yeah, I love your advice. I think system ops today are like very or quite easy to get or to learn or to understand. But yeah, I really agree with you that you need to find a sparkle inside a person. So if you find that sparkle, besides they're not probably prepared for the position or for the system, but they can still learn that. So thanks a lot, Liam, for your generous and honest conversation today. We are at the end of the session, so thanks Raquel and Marcos for your support and partnership all along the way, and for everyone that has taken part to this webinar today. And yeah, we see you at the next one.
Lucia, can I thank you and Raquel just really quickly for having me on this panel, but today's not about me. I think what you are doing is incredible. And I know we've got a small audience today, but everything that is great in the world started at one point in time as a very small thing. And, you know, for everyone who's joined from around South Africa or various parts of the world today, thank you for your time and keep pushing those boundaries. I think, as I mentioned on LinkedIn, we are operating in extreme mode. Not you know, it is a volatile market. Things are difficult. And yeah, thank you for what you're doing to inspire the future generations and innovate in technology. So we all players together in hospitality and a better future. Thank you.
Well, thanks for being part of that.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.